beautiful artists, and welcome back to another episode of Paint Along with Skye. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Skye and I post beginning level acrylic painting tutorials here on YouTube every Saturday. So make sure to hit subscribe so you can join the fun and paint along, and don't forget to hit the bell icon to be notified when I post a new video. This week here in the US, it is post-Thanksgiving, which means it is the official start of the holiday season, and it is going to be Black Friday weekend when this is posting, so I wanted to provide an alternative, which is hand-painted ornaments, which make great gifts, or something to add to your shopping for the holidays. But these make great gifts, they mail well. I've sent little painted ornaments a couple years in a row to some family and friends. Hopefully they like them. They also sell well at craft shows if you're doing a holiday craft show or something like that. I have these blanks here that we're going to paint on today. It can be really any circular blank, and I've done in prior years tutorials, I've done the wood slices, but I like these guys because they come obviously with a little hole on top so that you can put the string through it. And this kit actually came with these little strings as well, which I've tied up. I painted the back of these guys black as well. I like to, when I send these like a card, have a little holiday message, which is optional, which I'm not going to include in today's tutorial, but we're going to do this cute little sort of Northern Lights inspired night sky, and then we're going to do a little sunrise inspired birch trees. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to put these models on the side here. And I have my 4 brushes from the kit that I use for most of my tutorials, which this kit comes with 4 sizes. It's the sizes and general shapes that are important. I'm probably not going to use this big brush, but this kit comes with a 3/4 inch wash brush. And then I have 3 pointed brushes here, 2 small for details and 1 for general blending. This is a size 10, and then we have a size 3 and a size 3/0. Again, these guys come in a kit of all 4. And the colors that we have for today, I just have white to start with for the background steps. We don't need black. And then I have some gorgeous bright colors. So I have cadmium red, cadmium orange, and cadmium yellow. I have violet. This is purple. Looks a little dark, but we'll see it a little bit better when we add some white. And then I have an ultramarine blue and my phthalo green. To see a full materials list of everything that I use and recommend, check the description box below. It'll show you the colors that we need for today's tutorial, but it will also show you a link to my materials page where it shows you everything that you need to paint along. I think we're ready to go ahead and jump on in. Let's start with our backgrounds, and I'm going to use my medium-sized brush for this. And I think I'm going to put one of these guys aside for now and just work on one at a time so we can focus. And I'm gonna do my sunrise colors first, since those are pretty light. So I'm gonna start with my light colors, and then this piece of palette paper will get messier as we go. So when you're painting on wood, wood is a porous surface, more so than canvases, especially when we're working with our boxed canvases or canvas boards, which is what you'll see me pretty much always painting on. They tend to come pre-primed. So the surface that you're painting on, the paint is not going to soak that much in when you're painting on canvas, unlike when we're painting on wood today. So this is a very porous surface. So I mixed up a light yellow and I only added just a tiny, tiny bit of water. The more water that you add, the more it's going to sort of soak into and run into the texture here of our wood. I'm going to take my light yellow, which is just yellow with white, maybe about a little more than 1/4 of the way up. And then I'm going to grab a pinch of orange. I'm going to take this yellow-orange color right on top of that first yellow. I'm going to blend the two together. Just like so, working from the bottom up here, just because I'm starting with my lighter colors. But you could work from the top down too. You just might get a little bit dirtier water. And then I'm going to mix up a pink, which is going to be white and red. I don't really add any more additional water into my paint like I do very much so when I'm doing the backgrounds for the normal acrylic paintings. again, because of that porous surface, but I did have a wet brush, so there is still a little bit of water. I'm gonna take this pink right next to my orange, and then I'm actually gonna rinse my brush. Sometimes I don't really like how pink and light orange blend, so I'm gonna add a nice strip of pink first, like that. And then I'm gonna bring that light orange right up to the pink, and it already has dried. It dries way faster too. So you might need some pink to help you blend here into the light orange. All right, that looks a little better. And then that little space that I left, I'm gonna do some purple. Beautiful light purple. You can really see it nicely with the addition of white. And I'm gonna go along the top edge here and just bring that down into the pink a little bit, and then just blend a little bit of my pink. And that looks pretty good on its own, but I'm gonna grab a little bit more of like a bright orange. I'm gonna do some sort of sunset swipes down here of a little bit more saturated orange down into my yellow, just so it actually has a little tiny bit of stripiness. Like so, down into the yellow. And that looks pretty good. It's easy to make your colors muddy by over blending. And really that's like the only way to mess up your painting, in my opinion, because we all have different styles. But if the colors are all muddied, it just doesn't look as good. Let's add a little bit of orange here. So don't over blend, but also be brave and blend a little bit rather than leaving them very stripy. Okay. And you can add any additional color that you might need. But once you get your little sunset created, kind of like the stripiness, then you're gonna wanna step away and let it dry, but I'm not quite done yet. A little bit more orange. I wanna get a nice soft little sunrise. That's what makes these types of ornaments so pretty, is to have the little details, like a little gradation. I think it ends up looking really cool on mini canvases and surfaces like this. Working it probably a little too much. Okay, I'm gonna step away and let that dry and not touch it anymore. And I got a little bit on the top, but that's all right. I like to do the faces of these first and then let them dry completely, and then you can kind of clean up any areas with solid colors. All right, let's leave that on the side here completely and pull in our new blank. And we're going to do a very similar process here with our other gradation. So same brush, and we can work from the bottom up or from the top down with this one. Doesn't matter quite so much. And I'm gonna take this gorgeous phthalo green and mix it with white and come up with this amazing minty color. That's one of my favorites, especially for winter, but I guess also for summer too, because it's just that pretty tropical watercolor. Okay, I want to make it a little, maybe more saturated than pastel. And I'm going to take my light green and work my way maybe about a third of the way up. Maybe a little bit further. And this one is easier because this is only 2 colors, whereas we managed to do 4 the last one. So I'm going to rinse my brush. And then I'm just gonna take some of my gorgeous ultramarine blue, and I want this pretty saturated. So not very light, not very much white, because this is the night sky, but it's the night sky with like some light. So this is maybe like a dawn and dusk kind of thing. Okay, and then you want to bring that to your green and you want to blend your green in, but again, we have such a porous surface that I might need to grab some of my light green again to help me blend the two colors together. Gradations are what it's all about, folks. Today, it's the name of the game. All right, and then once you get a pretty good blend going on, we're just gonna step away and let this layer dry as well. All right, I brought my green pretty far up. Bring a little bit more saturated blue in the top part here. Okay. It's looking pretty good, and it doesn't need to be straight, even straight across. It was a little bit curved. I kind of like it a little bit diagonal. All right, we have our two beautiful graded backgrounds. So let's let this layer dry and we'll come back and we'll add our second layer. All right, no playing in there with your gradations. Let them be, step away for a minute, and we'll come back and finish them up. I'll see everyone in a few. Hello again, beautiful artists. Skye here with an exciting channel announcement. Intermediate courses are now available through YouTube memberships. The program is called the Paint Along with Skye Gold Stars program, and membership includes exclusive access to 2 longer tutorials per month where I take you through step-by-step one more challenging painting. One painting, 2 parts. With the Gold Stars program, I'll be taking you through a more traditional painting process where we will use a reference photo and a grid sketch method. If you've been painting along with me for a while and you'd like to challenge yourself a little bit, I invite you to join us. Membership includes sized printable reference photos, access to the bi-weekly videos, which are uploaded on the first and third Thursdays of the month. Membership will also, of course, support me and the channel and allow me to keep providing the free tutorials and the intermediate program for everyone in perpetuity. To find out more information and to get signed up, simply click the join button on any of my videos or on my channel homepage. I can't wait to get creative with you. See you soon. Okay, welcome back, artists. We have completely dry background layers with our gorgeous sunrise and sunset colors, and we're ready to add our trees. All I have on my palette paper is just simply black and white. I rinsed my brushes and got some fresh water at break as well, and we are ready to jump right back on into it. And we can start with either one, but I feel like starting with our adorable little birch tree scene. And I'm going to start with white. And I'm using my second to smallest detail brush, but feel free to use a smaller brush if that will make you feel a little bit more in control of your hand. It's all about brush control, developing that dexterity. I'm gonna go just a little bit right here of the top little ornament topper. I'm going to do a mostly straight line from the top down. This is gonna be our birch tree that's on the right-hand side. I always like to start a little bit thinner than I think I'm going to end up. And these are handy because you can move them around. So staying on that same up and down line. And just gradually making it a little bit thicker with each pass until it looks about how we like. That looks good to me. I'm gonna do that one a little bit thinner than my second one. I'm just gonna have really simple 2 little birch friends here. And this one I know is gonna be a little bit thicker, so I was bold there with the 2 lines and then just meeting them together with white, but you could do the same way where you just start with a line and thicken it as well. But I knew I wanted it to be pretty thick. The paint here is not soaking in as much as it did in our first background layer. But I still have almost no water. In my paint. Because you don't want it to bleed, which happened in one of my first little practice ones. Then I'm going to add the little side branches. I'm going to start with my back one again, and I'm going to do a little diagonal brush stroke up for a branch. You want to stay pretty thin, pretty skinny with your branches, and then an even skinnier branch coming from there and from the other side, just also diagonally. And we could even use our super tiny brush for this if we would prefer, since the width of that is really good for tiny little branches. Gonna do one more tiny little branch up top. Look at that skinny little line. Very handy for these tiny little compositions today. Whatever feels better. I think I'm gonna use the second to smallest still. I'm gonna do a little crisscross branch action up here. Very cute. And one more little side branch, creating sort of like a frame. Nice. Okay, it's very simple to finish these birch trees now. And I think it will be handy to use our tiniest brush. And we're gonna just be working with grays now. I'm gonna mix up like a pencil gray, like a medium gray with black and white. And my tiny, tiny brush, and very little to no water still. And I'm going to go along the outside of those white lines. And I'm not gonna go over my branches. I'm gonna go around them. And this one takes patience, but it makes a big difference. And we only have 2 trees, so it doesn't take too long, but we're gonna outline our trees with this dark gray. Yeah, definitely nice to use the tiny brush. That's why we keep them on standby. Don't often use them, but when you need them, you need them. Okay, that's looking good. Outlining all those white lines with gray. It should be dark enough to provide a nice outline, but not so dark to where things are looking really black and white. Okay, looking good. You can see what nice contrast that creates rather than just the white alone. I think for little tiny paintings like this, it's nice to do the outlines especially. It's a graphic design trick that white text with black or dark gray outlines shows up almost on everything. I used to work, well, I still work for a publishing company, but I used to work on the magazines that they would produce. So like magazine covers, you'll often see white with black outlining, but works even in things like thumbnails for YouTube too, and even for paintings sometimes. Now I just work online for them, not the print work. I'm an editor by day and painter by night and weekend. I'm gonna grab my second to smallest brush for the next step. And I'm going to mix up a lighter gray. And I'm gonna go a few places now from the outside edge into the center of our tree trunk, and you can turn it around if that is a little bit easier. We're going to do a few brush strokes next to each other, and I actually don't want to create any specific pattern, so I did 3 and 3, but not really on purpose. And what's fun about these birch trees is a lot of times in their bark they'll have what looks sort of like eyes. Really cool and like slightly spooky. And I wanted to do one of those today on this little mini painting. And what they are is they're where the branch falls off. And the way that we do it is we're gonna do a little like eyelid, essentially. Like so, and then a little dot right underneath, and then a few brush strokes under that. That's our first layer of shadow, but we are going to have a little bit of nice dark gray on there too after this medium gray. But let's add this over here too. I'm just kind of making it up as I go, a little bit different every time. Just kind of go from one side to the other, going from the outside little gray edge that I just added towards the inside. And we want to do the same thing even on these little tiny branches, and even just those few little slight brush strokes makes a difference. And these guys are crisscrossing, but I need to decide which tree is in front of which actually. And let me grab some more dark gray really quick. I would imagine that the bigger tree would be in front, so I'm gonna do little gray lines right there. And then go back to my light gray and add a few little brush strokes on those guys too. Looking cute. And now some dark gray also. Just adding a second additional shadow. I still have my second to smallest brush. I'm gonna add a little bit of shadow around our little eye, and just a little bit in each one. That really looks like an eye. I think I kind of mentally started making it even look more like an eye once I decided that we were gonna add one. All right, but I like it. Just a few little brush strokes coming down and all around, just in the same way that you added your light gray, and in some of those same areas overlapping in a few areas, and then maybe on its own as well. So those are like darker indentations. And then the cutest part, I think, almost the cutest, is our snow. And I'm gonna add some white up top here as well, just to make our ornament look nice and finished. And you can paint this up top with any color that you like, but I'm gonna go with white since I'm doing a sort of snowy theme with both of these paintings today. Nice, that should make it look a little bit more finished and pretty. And then to add my chunky snow, I'm gonna use the back of my brush. I'm just gonna add a few cute little snowflakes all throughout. Less is more, you'd be surprised what a difference that step makes. I think that looks really cute. Maybe have some coming in front as well of your little trees. Cute. That looks good to me. And then that would be finished. I would let this dry. Usually if I was making these for gifts or for a craft show or something, I would let that dry fully, and then I would flip it over and paint the back if I needed to. You could also paint the sides if you wanted it to look extra fancy and finished. But that is the face there and the finished final product for our birch trees. So let's jump over to our Northern Lights inspired and North Star inspired winter nighttime landscape. And this one is also very simple. I think it might be simpler and just using black and white. And I'm gonna try again with my super smallest brush because why not? We have it on hand. And with this, I'm gonna use black and create my pine trees. So you can start with any one you want, but the idea here is we're just gonna start with an up and down line and make sure it's really skinny at the top, especially. And then from the top, we're gonna kind of flick our brush stroke out, creating these almost little like eyelashes. But as we get down, we need to thicken it up a little bit. So it's gonna be wider at the base, of course, and then taper off for that classic pine tree shape. And here at the bottom, it doesn't matter so much that your brush strokes are all nicely flicking out, because we're gonna have a thick black base there. And again, it really looks better when you make a little tiny skinny line there at the top. It just makes it look a little bit more detailed. And then I'm gonna add a friend over here for him or her. I'm just gonna repeat this a couple times. I'm just gonna add two over here, and I like to leave a little bit of peekaboo green showing through. The vibe that I was trying to capture with this one was like, you're gonna go Northern Lights hunting, you're up in the Northern Hemisphere, or I suppose maybe even in the far south. And it looks like it's gonna be a good night for lights because they've started up and you can see that sort of green glow on the horizon. To see the Northern Lights, the aurora, which is, I hopefully have an Alaska trip planned for a little while in the future, but I'm already excited. And that's already where my brain is at. And it's perfect, of course, for wintry. And this side, I'm gonna leave a little gap there. And I'm gonna bring it pretty tall. And just the same idea. Lots of brush strokes. Don't leave a big gap like that. That doesn't look as good. That looks like a sickly tree. Make them fat and happy. That's how we want our trees. And getting pretty solid there towards the base. Little flick of the wrist. Important to get those fine detail lines. Okay. Looks pretty good. I like to do the whole top down branches and then come back and sort of make it a little bit taller and skinnier up there. That is like the biggest tree in this part of the forest. Maybe this is a little further south, because once you get really high up in up by the Arctic Circle and stuff, things get pretty short actually. And then maybe one more tree towards the background here, and this creates kind of like a nice little frame where we're still seeing that peekaboo bright green, and it's still giving us the effect of that nice little forest skyline. Kind of challenging to get that tiny skinny line. And then balance the two sides. But possible. Okay. Very nice. Final couple steps here. We'll be done with our white here in just a minute. I think this needs to be a little bit more solidly black though. Okay. And take your time. Always know that because this is in the digital format, whenever you need to pause, you can. You can always skip forward too and come back, and you get to see better than I do where these things are gonna go, how they're gonna end up. And let me grab my white now with that same tiny brush. And I'm gonna start with my main star, which is actually gonna be a straight up and down line first. It's very, very tiny. And then from the center, it'll go like a plus sign out in that direction. And then I like to thicken up the top and bottom a little bit and taper those up a little bit further. And then we'll have a little additional in-between lines, like so. And that's always a really cute little addition, to have a little twinkly star. And that of course has the Christmas vibes and also the Northern Lights vibes, because this would be maybe the North Star, or was it, I thought it was the North Star for Bethlehem story, but I guess it was the East. I recently heard it again and I was like, oh, remembered that wrong. And then the back of my brush for a little bit of snow for this guy too, or maybe they're stars coming in, or maybe they're both. A little bit of snow kind of between our trees too, and we have a snowy, starry night friend, so cute. To our birch tree, we have our winter trees two ways, and I want to do a nice little white topper for this guy too. And then like I said, if you wanted to, you could paint the backs with a solid color. Once the face is completely dry, you can flip it over. But those are our two finished compositions for today's tutorial for these adorable little ornaments. I hope you enjoyed this special edition of my Paint Along with Skye Saturday series, and I would love to see you over in the Gold Stars program as well. If you are bit by the art bug and can't stop painting and would like to take it to the next level, you can check out how to paint from reference photos, which is very helpful. We do it a completely different way over there. And if you made it through today was a little tricky because it was a lot of fine details. I really would love to see your work too. It's my best part of my day and my favorite thing to see everyone's paintings. And the way that you can share it with me, the best way, is to join my Facebook group called the Art Club. And that is in the link. There's a link below in the description box to join that as well. And that's free to join. And that you can share your art in, whether it be from painting along with me or just from your own studios and imaginations. I would love to see what you're creating. And that is all for this week. So happy holiday season, my favorite time of the year. And thanks for painting along. And until next time, stay creative.